What you're about to witness will shake the very foundation of WWE to its core. The general manager we thought we knew, the company man who played by the rules, just delivered the most brutal act of revenge we've seen in years. And if you think you know what happened when Adam Pearce returned to confront Bronson Reed after that disgusting attack on Roman Reigns, you're about to be proven dead wrong. This isn't just about management versus talent. This isn't just about authority versus rebellion. What Adam Pearce did to Bronson Reed's face with that steel chair will be talked about for decades. And the WWE Universe is absolutely losing their minds over what this means for the future of Monday Night Raw. But before we break down every single devastating detail of Pearce's shocking return and that chair shot that left Reed's face a bloody mess, we need to understand exactly how we got to this point of absolute chaos. 3 weeks ago, Roman Reigns was standing in the center of that ring, addressing the WWE Universe about his ongoing rivalry with Cody Rhodes. The tribal chief was in his element, commanding respect, when suddenly the lights went out. When they came back on, Bronson Reed was standing behind Roman like a 330-pound nightmare. What happened next was one of the most vicious attacks in recent WWE history. Reed didn't just attack Roman Reigns, he destroyed him. The tsunami splash from the top rope. The powerbomb through the announce table. The repeated stomps to Roman's ribs while he was down and defenseless. Medical personnel rushed to the scene, but the damage was done. Roman Reigns was stretchered out of that arena, and Bronson Reed stood over the carnage like some kind of monster. But here's what nobody saw coming: Adam Pearce wasn't just watching from backstage. He was seething. Because what Reed did wasn't just an attack on Roman Reigns. It was an attack on everything Pearce has built as general manager. It was a direct challenge to his authority, his show, and his ability to maintain order in WWE. For 3 weeks, Adam Pearce said nothing publicly about Bronson Reed's assault. Not a single statement. Not a suspension. Not even a fine. The wrestling world started questioning whether Pearce had lost control of his own show. Social media was exploding with fans demanding action. Where was the general manager? Where was the authority figure who was supposed to protect his superstars? Behind the scenes, sources tell us that Pearce was conducting his own investigation. He was reviewing security footage. He was interviewing witnesses. He was building a case. But more than that, and this is the part that will shock you, Adam Pearce was planning something that would send a message so clear, so devastating, that nobody would ever question his authority again. Reed thought he had gotten away with it. He was walking around backstage like he owned the place, bragging to anyone who would listen about how he put the so-called tribal chief in the hospital, talking about how weak the WWE management had become, how Adam Pearce was nothing more than a corporate puppet who couldn't touch him. Bronson Reed had no idea what was coming. Last Monday night, Bronson Reed was in the middle of his entrance for what was supposed to be a routine match against R-Truth. The Australian powerhouse was basking in the boos from the WWE Universe, smirking at the Roman Reigns chants that were echoing throughout the arena. He was completely oblivious to the storm that was about to hit him. Then Adam Pearce's music hit. But this wasn't the typical entrance music we're used to hearing. This was different. Darker. More intense. The lights dimmed, and when Adam Pearce walked through those curtains, everything about his demeanor had changed. Gone was the diplomatic general manager. Gone was the company man who solved problems with contracts and stipulations. The man walking down that ramp was furious. You could see it in his eyes. You could see it in the way he carried himself. This was Adam Pearce, the former wrestler. Adam Pearce, the competitor who had been pushed too far. And in his hands was a steel chair that would soon become the weapon of ultimate justice. Reed initially looked confused. What was the general manager doing with a chair? Was this some kind of corporate punishment? A new stipulation for his match? The confusion on Reed's face quickly turned to concern when he saw the look in Pearce's eyes. You want to attack my superstars when they're defenseless? Pearce's voice boomed through the microphone, but his tone was unlike anything we'd ever heard from him before. You want to put Roman Reigns in the hospital? You want to think there are no consequences for your actions? Bronson Reed grabbed a microphone and started to respond, but Pearce cut him off with words that will echo in WWE history. The only thing you need to know is that your reckoning has arrived. What happened next was pure chaos. Reed charged at Pearce, but the general manager was ready. Years of wrestling experience kicked in as Pearce sidestepped the charging giant and swung that steel chair with devastating precision. The sound of metal connecting with skull echoed throughout the arena like a gunshot. But Pearce wasn't done. Not even close. As Bronson Reed stumbled backward, blood already beginning to flow from a gash on his forehead, Adam Pearce raised the chair high above his head. The WWE Universe was on their feet, not knowing whether to cheer or gasp in horror at what they were witnessing. "This is for Roman Reigns," Pearce shouted as he brought the chair down across Reed's face with such force that the sound reverberated through the entire arena. Reed crumpled to the mat, his face a mask of blood and pain. But the most shocking part? Pearce still wasn't finished. He grabbed Reed by the hair, forcing the barely conscious superstar to look at him. "And this," Pearce said, his voice now eerily calm, "is for thinking you could disrespect my show." The second chair shot was even more brutal than the first. The steel connected directly with Reed's nose, and the sickening crunch that followed made even the most hardcore WWE fans turn away in disgust. Blood was pouring from Reed's face, staining the white canvas of the ring. Medical personnel rushed to the scene, but Adam Pearce waved them off. He stood over Bronson Reed's motionless body, that bloody chair still in his hands, looking like a man who had finally unleashed years of pent-up frustration. The images of Bronson Reed's bloodied face being stretchered out of that arena have already become iconic. But it's what happened after the cameras stopped rolling that has the entire WWE Universe talking. Sources backstage tell us that Triple H and Stephanie McMahon were furious with Adam Pearce's actions. Not because they disagreed with Reed being punished, but because Pearce had acted without corporate approval. He had taken justice into his own hands in a way that could expose WWE to massive liability. But here's the twist that nobody saw coming: the WWE Universe is overwhelmingly supporting Adam Pearce's actions. Social media is exploding with fans praising the general manager for finally showing some backbone. Merchandise sales for Adam Pearce have increased by 400% in just the past week. The hashtag #PearceJustice has been trending worldwide. Roman Reigns himself released a statement from his hospital bed, saying that while he doesn't condone violence, he was grateful to see that actions have consequences in Adam Pearce's WWE. But this story is far from over, and the questions surrounding it are keeping the entire WWE Universe on edge. Has Adam Pearce crossed a line that will cost him his job? Corporate sources suggest that there's a heated debate happening behind closed doors about Pearce's future as general manager. Some executives are calling for his immediate termination, while others are arguing that his actions, while extreme, were necessary to maintain order. What does this mean for Bronson Reed's future? The Australian powerhouse suffered a broken nose, a concussion, and required 23 stitches to close the gash on his forehead. But more than the physical damage, sources say Reed is now absolutely terrified of Adam Pearce and has been requesting security whenever he's at WWE events. Is this the beginning of a new era where general managers settle disputes with violence instead of authority? Wrestling legends like Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock have already weighed in on social media, with both praising Pearce for handling business the old-school way. The wrestling community is buzzing with conspiracy theories about what really happened that night. Some fans believe this entire situation was orchestrated by Triple H to test Adam Pearce's loyalty to the company. The theory suggests that Reed's attack on Roman Reigns was actually approved by management to see how Pearce would respond. Others are convinced that Pearce's actions were actually a shoot, that he genuinely snapped and delivered real, unscripted violence against Bronson Reed. The level of blood and the realistic medical attention have fueled these rumors. There's even a theory circulating that Roman Reigns himself requested that Pearce take violent action against Reed, and that the entire hospital stay was exaggerated to sell the severity of Reed's original attack. What's becoming clear is that Adam Pearce's actions have sent shockwaves throughout the entire WWE roster. Superstars who previously saw the general manager as a pushover are now viewing him as someone to be feared and respected. Drew McIntyre was quoted as saying, "I've seen Adam in the ring before, but I never thought he still had that kind of violence in him." Every superstar in the back is going to think twice before stepping out of line now. Even Cody Rhodes, who has had his own issues with management decisions, praised Pearce's actions. Sometimes you need to remind people that authority isn't just about paperwork and contracts. Sometimes it's about being willing to fight for what's right. But perhaps the most concerning aspect of this entire situation is the legal implications. Bronson Reed's legal team has already filed a formal complaint with WWE Corporate, demanding that Adam Pearce be terminated and that Reed receive financial compensation for his injuries. Legal experts are suggesting that if Reed decides to pursue criminal charges, Pearce could face assault charges that would not only end his WWE career but potentially land him in prison. The fact that the attack was premeditated, Pearce came to the ring with a weapon, could make the charges even more severe. WWE's legal department is reportedly working overtime to contain the situation and prevent it from becoming a public relations nightmare. But sources suggest that the damage may already be done. Here's the shocking news that broke just hours ago: Bronson Reed is planning his return to WWE television next week. Despite his injuries, despite the trauma, despite everything that happened, Reed is demanding a face-to-face confrontation with Adam Pearce. But Reed isn't coming back for revenge. He's coming back for something much more dangerous. He's coming back to expose Adam Pearce. Sources close to Reed tell us that he has evidence that will completely change how the WWE universe views this entire situation. Evidence that will prove Adam Pearce's actions were not justified. Evidence that could destroy Pearce's career and reputation forever. Without giving too much away, we can tell you that Reed's evidence involves security footage from the night of his attack on Roman Reigns. Footage that allegedly shows something that completely contradicts the official story we've all been told. If Reed's claims are true, then everything we think we know about that night, about the attack, about Roman's injuries, about Pearce's motivation for revenge, has been a lie. And the implications of that truth could tear WWE apart from the inside. The Adam Pearce situation has become the most talked about storyline in WWE today, and we're only just beginning to scratch the surface. Next week's Raw is already being advertised as the night that will change everything, and WWE officials are predicting it could be one of the highest-rated episodes of the year. But more than ratings, more than storylines, more than entertainment value, what happened between Adam Pearce and Bronson Reed represents something bigger. It represents a fundamental shift in how authority figures operate in WWE. It represents the return of old-school justice in a corporate wrestling world. And it represents the reality that sometimes, when words fail, violence becomes the only language that certain people understand. The question now isn't whether Adam Pearce was right or wrong. The question is whether WWE, and the wrestling world as a whole, is ready for the consequences of his actions. Because one thing is certain: after what happened to Bronson Reed's face, nothing in WWE will ever be the same again. But here's the piece of information that will absolutely blow your mind: Adam Pearce's chair attack on Bronson Reed wasn't his idea. It was ordered by someone much higher up the WWE corporate ladder. Someone who wanted to send a message not just to Reed, but to every superstar who thinks they can disrespect the company and get away with it. And when Bronson Reed reveals this information next week, when he exposes who really orchestrated his brutal punishment, the resulting chaos will make his original attack on Roman Reigns look like child's play. The war between Adam Pearce and Bronson Reed is just beginning. And before it's over, careers will be ended, reputations will be destroyed, and the entire landscape of WWE will be changed forever. Stay tuned, because what happens next will be unmissable.